the biggest, probably one of the times where I was mostly concerned about clients coming on site, was doing basements. And you've got like large holes and trip hazards and that sort of thing that can happen on a site. And one thing I always look at is when you've got steel coming out of concrete and you've got this rod that's sticking out of the ground. And yes, you may have caps and that sort of thing on it, but it still terrifies me that somebody, and whether it's a homeowner or whether it's just some random that accesses a site, which we know happens as well, they injure themselves or somebody
Yeah.
gets impaled because somebody slipped off an edge and, oh, like, it just scares the living crap out of me, that sort of thing.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Builders Beyond Borders. My name's Paul from Independent Building Solutions in Canberra, and I've got with me today again Hugh from New Realm Homes down in Melbourne. And we're just going to have a bit of a chat about site inspections and the various types of different site inspections and various types of methods and procedures and all that sort of thing. I mean, there's site inspections with clients, architects. There's site inspections that are legally done by councils or by building certifiers, and then you can request additional ones. Sometimes if things are changed, the building certifier might actually request an engineer to check things. There's a few various different site inspections and various different reasons why we have them all. So anyway, I'll pass over to you to have a bit of a chat, get us started, Hugh, and say hello. So what's your got some experience around that area?
Yeah, hi, Paul. And hey, all the people listening out there. We're loving being able to sort of bring some, I guess you could say, back of house information out there on the different types of inspections, and I guess you could almost even call it sort of like the run of the mill meetings and that sort of thing that would actually be happening on site and during a build throughout, well, just about every build, whether it's a renovation, new home, townhouses, whatever it may be, is, I mean, if we just get into the real early stuff, it's going to be those meetings that you have sometimes even before you even meet sign a contract and actually start doing any work. Is that site meeting where, with a client and a builder to go through a project. You start off with that, and that really should even sort of set the tone for the rest of the meetings that sort of happen on most projects anyway. But I mean, I know personally we try to have a minimum of sort of every 3 weeks to a month, depending on the size of the project, a meeting with our clients on site and go through anything that's sort of going on. If not, we have meetings sooner, just to go through what's going on, and if we've got any concerns, and we can raise that, and if a client's got any concerns, they can raise that at the time as well. But it's a really good, I guess you could say, focal point of a build is to be able to sort of get your hands not dirty, but get your hands into the feel of what's actually happening on site during a build, and be able to sort of have the conversations and raise concerns and really sort of be able to get solid answers instead of what we see a lot of people sort of doing at the moment, which is run out with their keyboard and go out into the ether of social medias and ask for answers on potential issues or concerns that people might have during a build. And you know how it goes. You can see some of the keyboard warriors that come in, and they'll say something that is really quite detrimental and can bring some real angst to clients, and something outside of a main contractors and builders control, can see something sort of going terribly pear shaped, and what could be a relatively minor little thing that hasn't been addressed during one of those site meetings, that could blow up into something that could almost derail a whole project in some instances. And I've seen that happen. All the different types of meetings that we do have, whether it is a client meeting, go through things, and clients might have their architect there. There might be an engineer there for a certain meeting because it might be up to a certain stage, whether it is frame stage, or if you've got suspended concrete slabs and steel work and that sort of thing in there, where they might be going, okay, well, we just need to make sure that the all the engineering has actually gone into it, and we need to make sure that that's happened. And yeah, you move on from some of those either inspections or meetings and that sort of thing, and you can go into some really out there sort of spaces where once you start getting some of the other professionals in for some of these meetings, and whether clients are there for it or not, there's still plenty of things that are sort of gone through on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it depends on the the level of involvement the clients want. Sometimes some people like to get heavily involved. Some people that sometimes don't want to get involved at all. Really, they sort of trust you to do what you're doing, and they trust the system because things have to be inspected. There's mandatory inspection stages that have to be done, and if there's amendments or something's been changed, then the certifiers will pick that up, and they might request an engineer's amended plan, or architect draftsman's amended plan if something's been changed. But usually things, when they get changed, is something the clients know about anyway, because it's usually them that makes the change. So those sort of things are generally not too much of an issue. But if people are starting to use Google and chat and all this stuff to check what you're doing, well, that starts to break the relationship down a bit right from the start, because you start to feel untrusted, don't you? So I think you got to build that. Usually we've got that trust built with our clients at the start, so that because they wouldn't be using us to do the job if we weren't. So and with the site inspections, with architects' jobs, we do regular site inspections. It depends on the stage the job's at, I guess. If there's not a great deal happening, or it's just coming out of the ground, you don't maybe only need to do it once a month. But usually clients will like to meet an architect and a builder on site once every fortnight, maybe once every week, just to have a walk through. And we just do that. We'll have a coffee usually and have a walk through and just explain what we're doing, where we're at. They can see what's happening. They know what's going on, and they feel included and involved, and sort of usually they're pretty relaxed if they can see everything's going the way that they had hoped it would, and everything's looking like they wanted it to. If something's starting to look like different to what they thought, there can be an issue then that needs to be addressed, and that can happen because some people are not visual people, and even though everything's as per the plan, they say, "Oh, this is too small, or this is too big, or too low, too high," whatever the case may be. So, well, that's what the plan says. And then you've got to explain it to them, measure it out, and then, well, you can change it. You can make it bigger, or you can make it smaller, or whatever. But obviously, it's a variation. It'll cost money. It'll take time, and you have to go through all those things. But we don't tend to generally have too many issues with that sort of thing. People do change their mind, and most people are very apologetic. "Oh, I'm sorry to muck you around. Sorry, I'm changing my mind." And and I'm always, I've never done a job in my life where people don't change their mind. So don't,
Yep.
no need to apologise. We're used to it. As long as you just understand that it could take longer, could cost a bit more, could be a couple of issues involved in it. If you want to proceed with that change, and then explain all that to them, and we generally don't have too much of a drama with any of that sort of stuff.
Well, I'll throw a little bit of a curveball at you, just for a bit of a giggle. But it's probably more serious than what I'll make this out to be. But it's, well, when we are talking about site inspections, we know that a lot of homeowners want to be, and now this isn't everybody, but there's all types of people doing any kind of building. People that are like, well, we trust the builder to go about it and get it done, and they don't really sort of stress until the scheduled sort of meetings happen and that sort of thing. But it's the ones that insist on going to the home or going to the build every single day and walking through things. It's very hotly contested about, okay, well, what kind of rights does a homeowner have to be going out to their house and doing all this sort of thing? Now, I'm of the belief that when it comes to it, you have every right to go out to your house. If people go down the road of turning around saying, "Hey, look, you can't come out to the job, and you're not allowed to have access," or anything like that, where the builder, and under contract law and everything with building contracts, there is that aspect that in the contracts it does say a homeowner is allowed reasonable access. But what is reasonable access? Well, that's something left to the gods and interpretation and that sort of thing. But when it comes to it, if you've got inspections that are sort of booked in, or meetings and that sort of thing with your builder who's fairly open, and they don't have a problem with this sort of thing, how often do we think is reasonable for people to be sort of turning up to site and walking through and doing all that sort of thing, either with or without the builder or the builder's representative present? What do we think's okay?
That it does say that in the contract, yes, and it does say, because the builder needs to take possession of the site to be able to carry out his work, and it can be dangerous too. It can be, because depending on what stage the job's at, that's, I think the biggest point there is with safety. it's got to be, the foremost importance, and that's why that is to protect people from hurting themselves or falling down a hole or falling off a roof or falling down the stairs or whatever the case may be. If there's not, walking somewhere they shouldn't walk, it's not finished being built yet, and could cause a serious injury or something like that. So I guess that's the main reason around that. But it does say in the contracts that they can inspect the site. I think, as say, usually any time you want, as long as, like you said, the builder or one of the builder's representatives, someone's on site with them. That's all, just to make sure they're safe. But the site does become the property of the builder legally until the job's finished. And it's like I said before, it depends on the type of client. Some people like to watch. Some people are generally just interested in what you're doing. They're not trying to stand over your shoulder, so to speak. They're just generally interested. It's their house, and they just want to know what's going on. They like to see what's going on. Some people just couldn't care less. They only want the finished product, don't they?
Mm.
So when it gets to the stage, I guess towards the end, when the bathrooms are going together, tiling, kitchens, joinery, painting, stuff like that, they really get excited then, and they do want to have a look more often. When you're just digging holes or pouring concrete, stuff like that, they're sort of generally not too interested, most of them. So it's not so much of an issue. And then, usually by the time you get to that final stage, the house is a lot safer. There's usually not too many issues with safety, so you don't have to worry too much. But it's I know I've heard stories of builders getting really cranky at people for going on site without permission.
Mm.
I sort of can't do that because I feel like it's their house. It just doesn't seem right, does it? So I generally don't, but I just explain that to them. Say, look, it's really a safety issue. You've got to really be careful what you do, and you've got to have your wits about you and make sure you watch where you're walking and keep an eye on things. So I'd really rather you came when someone was there, one of my guys was there, or I was there. So
Yeah.
and, but sometimes that's not convenient for us. So
Oh, definitely, and
yeah.
and this is what it comes back to about being reasonable, and I totally agree with you. Like it's their home. Yes, we've got possession of the property at the time as builders, but in the same vein, like, isn't it nice to be able to say, "Hey, look, happy to have you down anytime." When it comes to it, we want to make sure that you're safe when you come on site.
Yeah,
We want to
call
make
in when we're there. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're gonna come down, a little bit of a heads up, you can come down every day, and it's just say, "Hey, look, we'll probably pop past as we're driving home from work at sort of 3:30 each day, and we just wanna see what's happening and that sort of thing." And we as long as somebody's there, no stress, and we'll pop in, say hi, do anything like that. I think we all know of the horror stories where people stand at the front gate of the home and say, "No, you're not allowed in. You're not allowed in." I guess you could say we've all seen that sort of thing happen because there's been some tension or there's been something that's gone wrong, or a homeowner's come into the property at, say, 10 o'clock at night to have a look through, and they've done something, or they've left a door unlocked, or they've left a gate ajar, or something like that, where anybody else, and so there's been a concern that there might have been something stolen or damaged or anything like that, and it can create friction. Now, I don't want to say to everybody, no, you're not allowed to go on site or do anything like that, but within reason, and set those expectations and reasonable assumptions out at the beginning, and so that there's no way of creating that friction. And a good builder will be able to do that with anybody.
Yeah, well, I must say I've heard a lot of stories like that, but I haven't had it happen. It's generally, it's a communication thing at the end of the
Mm.
day, I guess, isn't it? You just got to make sure you talk to your clients, like I said, explain to them the dangers and the issues that it can be with them going on site. And I haven't had, certainly never had anyone stand at the gate tell me they can't come in.
Oh, yeah.
And I've certainly never stood at the gate and told anyone else they can't come in either. So
Yeah, me too.
we're pretty fortunate in that regard. But I think, yeah, again, it's just communication. But I think it's a bigger building companies and the ones that are never on site.
Mm.
They're a bit thin on the ground, some of those guys, and they're just trying to turn them out. They don't want people on site because if something goes wrong, someone does hurt himself, it's going to cause them a lot of headaches.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Well, the biggest, probably one of the times where I was mostly concerned about clients coming on site was doing basements, and you've got large holes and trip hazards and that sort of thing that can happen on a site. And one thing I always look at is when you've got steel coming out of concrete and you've got this rod that's sticking out of the ground, and yes, you may have caps and that sort of thing on it, but it still terrifies me that somebody, and whether it's a homeowner or whether it's just some random that accesses a site, which we know happens as well, they injure themselves, or somebody gets
Yeah.
impaled because somebody slipped off an edge, and like it just scares the living crap out of me, that sort of thing. So
Well, yeah, and kids can be an issue too. If they bring young kids on the site, they're running around and they want to climb all over everything and climb up
Mm.
everything and jump on everything and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So I've had that happen sometimes too. And some people are pretty laid back with it comes to disciplining or pulling the kids into line, and they
Mm.
don't realise that they're going to hurt themselves, and you sort of feel a bit awkward because you can't say anything, can you? I mean, you don't tell some kid to stop doing something that if they're not yours. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't tell
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people's kids what to do, so I have had that sometimes, and they're kicking the sand around and kicking this around.
Yeah, yeah. And
But,
but we still have
but
that communication thing
mm,
right at the beginning. It is putting these little not conditions, but it's just sort of setting the standard for reasonable access and expectations during that time and that sort
yeah,
of thing. And we've found that works pretty well. And then homeowners, they turn up and have a look through things, and then we might get a message at sort of 5 o'clock, that, "Oh, we've just driven past and we didn't go in, because nobody was there, but there was something that we could see from the road." Cool. What did you see from the road? And it might just be, "Oh, one of the walls that was stood up looked like it was on the piss." Mm, I don't think the walls are finished yet, but we'll have a look at it.
yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of people are like that. They sort of wanna comment on things that are only half built, so
Yeah.
it'll be okay. Just let us finish it first. If you don't like it, then we'll discuss it. But I think
Yep.
what you're, saying won't be a problem once the job's finished.
Mm,
It's a half-built product, so yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
that's it.
Um, yeah, that's quite a funny one, actually. Some people are a bit like that. They like to micromanage you a bit.
Yep, they sure do.
Yeah.
Sure do. And look, I think we all sort of come to expect that some of that's going to happen, and in a lot of times, if there's a bit of awareness around what's going on, then everybody can work in together, and it's not a big stress at all.
Yeah, I guess it comes back to communication, doesn't it? Like we said earlier with and that comes back to that with pretty much everything, so, yeah.
Definitely.
No worries, Hugh. Well, that's, been a bit of good chat, mate, just looking at the time, so we might call it a day there, and I'll, talk to you on the next one.
Sure will, mate. Thank you very much. And if anybody's looking for a little bit more information, when it comes to building or their journey, we're trying to get out some more information. And if you have any questions that really sort of point out that you'd like a little bit more information, or an insider's perspective on a particular problem, issue, concern, or whatever's happening, then yeah, definitely write into us, because we'll be able to get something out, and at least even get a professional in that area to be able to sort of have a discussion about that as well, because we're trying to get some guests in the door that are going to be really relevant for people out there. So
And
get
we do
into
have,
us.
yeah, we do have a lot of builder friends all around the country, so we can point you in the right direction pretty much whichever state you're in, so, just let us know, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, mate.
We'll chat
See
to you
you
soon.
next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.